Welcome to QueerTWENTY, the cohort of 2022. QueerTWENTY is egomonk's annual flagship program where we celebrate exceptional queer Indians succeeding in fields such as science, commerce, arts, business, social justice, etc. Today we have a very important guest with us, Sayantika Majumder. Sayantika is a queer spoken word poet, an LGBTQ plus rights activist, and a former journalist. She is a part of All Sorts of Queer, a Bangalore based queer women's network, and Sayantika is currently engaged with Flipkart in their UX design team as a copywriter. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Sayantika. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, Sayantika, you came out in your 20s. Could you tell us a bit about this journey of coming out to yourself?
Okay, so, growing up in 90s Calcutta, I did not even know the term lesbian. I did not know anyone around me who belonged to the LGBT community. So it was very difficult for me to come to terms with myself. Even though I knew that, I liked women and had this massive crush on a senior for 3 whole years back in high school, and like complete puppy love crush, unrequited love situation. I remember once when I was in school and the senior of mine, and there used to be like this typical whole, rebel of the school situation, and I was in a girls' school, right? So there was this rebel of the school situation, and I gave them a friendship band. So this is the time when like this kuch kuch hota hai and all was happening, and pyar dosti hai is what we all believed. I decided to give them a friendship band. So I very daringly bunked assembly. I was that kid for whom bunking assembly was a big deal. Okay, so I very daringly bunked assembly. I stayed back in class because I knew they would bunk, and I met them and I put out my hand like this, and I was like, happy friendship day. I could not even lift my head to look at them. I gave the friendship band like this, and they put out their hand, okay, and they said, pehna do, like make me wear it. And I had a complete SRK moment right there, like, oh my god, I am putting a friendship band around them. So despite all of this huge crush on a woman for so many years, I still did not figure it out. I would say I still wasn't able to come out to myself because I did not know what my life would look like being a woman who loves women. There was no template. Like growing up, all the relationships that we saw around us, whether it was from the community, whether it was offline or whether it was, on screen, all of them are straight, whether it's like a parents, whether it's some bhaiya bhabhi, whether it's some uncle auntie, or even the couples that we saw on screen, they were all straight. So the idea of romance between two women is something that I couldn't wrap my head around. I did not know what that meant for my life, what the template of my life would look like being a lesbian. I did not even know the term lesbian. So it took me a while to come out to myself. And I came out to myself at the age of 24 when I came to Bangalore and attended my first Pride March. And I saw so many people around me who were like me, and I finally felt like, I belonged. So that was a big moment. And, something I would like to say to young queer folks is that I came out at 24. My partner, Nick, she came out at something like 12, 13. I know people who have come out at 17. There is no right time for coming out, because coming out is something that, people say, oh, what's your coming out story and when did you come out? We don't come out once. We keep coming out throughout our lives. We come out to ourselves, we come out to our parents, we come out to people at work, college, school, probably the next door neighbor. We come out to so many people throughout our lives. So coming out is an ongoing journey. But to me, the biggest coming out is coming out to your own self. Like when I can look at myself in the mirror and be like, hey, okay, yeah, Sayantika, you're a lesbian, and be cool with that. So that is the biggest coming out for me, and that takes its own time.
So Sayantika, you identify as a lesbian. So as your lived experience of being a lesbian person in India, could you tell us two instances, one empowering instance and one marginalizing instance?
Okay, so I'll start with the bad news first. So I think being a lesbian, few of the incidents that's made me feel extremely marginalized stems from this perspective that people have of lesbians, which is utterly, utterly sexualized and fetishized. I one of the most searched porns in India is lesbian porn. I always say this, that gay men get discriminated against, lesbians get sexualized. That's what happens, because cis men, they love lesbians. They are not hating on us. They would just love to watch us. So I feel like that is, but on a serious note, I feel like that's very dehumanizing, because it takes away from our identity, it takes away from who we are, it takes away from our love, because all people can see when they are looking at us is how we do it. When I say I'm a lesbian, all people ask me or think about is, but how do you do it? Because that's the only thing you're thinking about. But think about this, like when your straight friend comes and tells you they're dating somebody, you don't ask them how they do it. Every straight person also probably does it differently. I mean, if you think about it, there are so many different positions in the Kama Sutra. So everybody is doing it differently, but that's not what you focus on. You focus on their love, their relationship, but that gets taken away from us, because all people can think about is in that sexualized, fetishized, very porn-centric gaze when it comes to our identity. I mean, to tell you a few instances, I remember that when Nick and I, so we love going dancing, we both love dancing, we love going to a club and dancing the night away, and we just like ourselves, right? Like me and my partner dancing. But so many times we have men coming up to us and saying, we want to buy you a drink because like we want to watch you dance together. There's some sort of like weird voyeurism when it comes to lesbians. It's very dehumanizing, it's very marginalizing, because and I'm not surprised, because the idea of female sexuality, lesbian, straight, otherwise, is so neglected in our society, that the idea that even in straight couples, even with cis straight women, it's always the male pleasure that's given importance. Female pleasure is never given enough importance, square, straight, otherwise. So even in a straight couple, when they don't think it's important for a woman to feel pleasure, how can they understand how two women can feel pleasure together? They are like, because for them, their idea of sex is male pleasure. So without a man in the equation, how is there any sex or pleasure? So I can understand how that is confusing for some folks, but it does take away from our existence, because our life is not just about how we do it. We are just like any other couple. We go to sleep together, we wake up together, we cook, we go to office together, we fight over what to watch on Netflix. Our life is just so mundane and not different from any other couple who's a straight couple. And I think that gets taken away, and that irks me. But yes, to answer the second part of your question, one event that was truly, truly empowering, and fortunately for me, that's an event that happens every year, which is Bangalore Pride. But the first Bangalore Pride that I attended when I was 24 years old was the most empowering event of my baby queer journey, is because, all my life, I had not seen people like me. I had not seen people like me around me. It's not easy for us to find people like us to date, because you can't just go up to people at work or, assume they're queer. We can't do that, or like tell them things like that. So when I went to Bangalore Pride and I saw thousands of people, some 5,000 people out on the streets of Bangalore, wearing their pride, wearing their rainbow colors, being their true authentic selves, chanting, marching together, coming together, it was so, I can't tell you how it felt. I just can't tell you how it felt to have that sense of belonging, to find people like me, to know that it's okay to be myself, that there are so many 5,000 or more people like me, and seeing them all come together, it was just the rainbow flag, fluttering in the wind, people chanting slogans, people just being so out loud proud. It was amazingly empowering.
So, Shantika, you have been quite open about your mental health, and you have been open about your diagnosis with bipolar and PTSD. Could you share your diagnosis journey with us, with the context of like probably therapy or medication and self-diagnosis?
So I'm a type 2 bipolar, type 2 high functioning bipolar, and I'm also a survivor assault. That's where I have the PTSD from. So and pretty much I think 10 years ago, 10 years ago is when I received my diagnosis. And for me, I know, like, when we get like a mental health diagnosis, for a lot of people it's like gloom and doom. For me, it finally made sense. It finally made sense because I I had all the symptoms of bipolarity, and I was, but I did not know what it meant. I was living with it. It's not like without the diagnosis I didn't have it or I wasn't living with it. I was still living with it. But without the diagnosis, it wasn't making sense. And I went to a lot of, since I was doing self harm, I was blacking out, I was having panic attacks. I went to a lot of psychiatrists, I went to a lot of psychologists, and it was not quite working out. In fact, I was like misdiagnosed as having BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. BPD and bipolarity often get, because the symptoms are very close, so it gets misdiagnosed a lot. So I had that misdiagnosis, and I was trying to Google stuff. I was trying to make sense of why this is happening, because it can feel really overwhelming and confusing to have to live with it without knowing what's going on, and really self-diagnosis doesn't work, because honestly, like, if you Google it, so many of the symptoms are so interlinked and interrelated, it is very confusing. Like, when I was trying to Google stuff and trying to find out from the internet what was happening to me, I had some 10 diagnoses from myself, and I was like, is it this happening, is that happening? So it was very, very confusing. But fortunately, I was lucky to have a very nice psychologist called Jain in Jaipur, and she helped me understand. And once I did, one of my, and I'm like a nerd, so one of my key responses was deep diving into what being bipolar meant and learning as much as I could about it. In fact, my dad helped me by getting me a book about bipolarity, and I read the book. I had all this. So while I would say that, self-diagnosis is not something that worked out, but just having after having the diagnosis, trying to learn as much about it as you can really help with the journey. And living with mental health, it is something that takes time. It is something that takes time, whether you're on medication or you're on therapy. It's not like, it's not you take one injection and you get better. That's not how it works. It takes work, it takes time. And the more, like, I have spent 10 years being bipolar, and honestly, I have learned, I wouldn't say it's better now in terms of it got better. I would say I am better at managing it. I got better at managing it over years of practice, because over the years you learn what your triggers are. You end up kind of seeing it coming. You see a hypomania or a hypomanic episode coming on. You know what triggers you. You know what helps you deal with it better. You learn, because there's no staple formula. This is the important thing. Like for me, I've tried medication, I've done medication, I do therapy now, and I've done therapy all along. For me, medication didn't, like, I didn't personally like medication because I found it difficult to manage the side effects. But I know a lot of people who are on medication and that helps them. And that's the thing, even though you put it under the bracket of bipolarity or mental health, the symptoms in all of us are so different. How it manifests in all of us are so different that different things can work for different people. For some people, art therapy works. For some people, CBT works, cognitive behavioral therapy. A lot of different things work. For some people, medication works. And you have to give yourself the time to figure out what works for you. That is very important. Nobody else can tell you. No, I can't be like, okay, I'm bipolar, you're bipolar, so I tried this worked for me, you try this. There's no staple formula. Not the same thing works for everybody. You have to take the time to figure it out. And you have to, one very important thing that I learned is, so, with my partner Nick, when I first met her, she had no idea about mental health at all. Like when I used to be in a bipolar low, I would not be able to get out of bed. I would not be able to do small things like take a shower or brush my teeth, and it would really confuse her, because probably just the previous day I have been like super, like I'm on top of the world kind of energy, and the very next day I can hardly get myself out of bed. And it would be very confusing for her, and she would be like, she tried to cheer me up, which was very well intentioned, that let's go for a drive, come on, I'll take you out, you'll feel better. And I had that conversation with her where I explained it to her, because see, in that moment, I know that in that moment when you're having a panic attack, when you're in that state, you can't explain to somebody else how to take care of you. You can't teach them that. But we are not always in that state, right? So we have to take the time when we are not feeling in that state to explain to our loved ones, to the people around us, how best to take care of us. And it used to make me angry. It used to make me feel like, why are you saying the wrong things? You don't know how to do this. You're supposed to know. You're supposed to get it, Google it, learn it. But then I realized that even if she Googles the hell out of it, she's still going to get some generic stuff which probably doesn't apply to me. And I, over the term of 10 years, have cultivated my methods of what works for me. And only I can teach her that. Who best to tell her, help her, help me, than me, who's learned to do it over 10 years.
Words inspire you so much. You use words to inspire so many. Could you recite one of your poems for us?
It's called Why She's Not Gay. Full stop, not a question mark. Okay. You told me last Saturday you couldn't possibly be gay. You spat out your straight for the heinous mistake I made. I tried to protest, but you wouldn't let it rest. Who was I to say that loving me made you gay? You had your reasons, you see, why you couldn't possibly be bisexual or gay. And this is what you had to say. I don't have short hair. Look at the clothes that I wear. I love to wear pink. My skin doesn't have ink. My eyebrows are not pierced. Our love was just rehearsed. It was an act, a ruse, a game. So I could put your name in my big wall of shame. Lying awake at night, listening to you sing, waking up next to you. Didn't mean a thing. It was just a phase, our little time on rent. It was nothing but a mere experiment. Every time I kissed your lips, your neck, your ear, my heart was frantic with long ingrained fear. No, I'm not a lesbian, not a dyke like you. I refuse to believe our love is true. Your voice cracks a little while you continue your rant, telling me all the reasons why you couldn't. can't. You can't break that closet door even though closed spaces scare you more. You make rainbow paper mache while once again you say all the reasons why you really are not gay. Yes, I kissed a girl and I liked it and I'm trying really hard to fight it. You don't know what it's like to be told you're not right, to be told it's a sin, to be guilty deep within, to hold hands with a guy when your heart wants to cry for that girl you left behind but can't get off your mind, trying to conform, failing to fit in, loving a girl knowing it's a sin, trying to cure myself of an illness I don't know. I can't be an abomination, I can't be a freak show. Well, in conclusion, to clear up the confusion, one more time you say, you really are not gay, but you kiss me anyway.
Within the LGBTQ plus community, who needs the outsized support?
Trans and non-binary folks.
Who is your queer role model?
Tuffy. This is bad.
Okay, you can say two.
No, I can't even find one.
Okay, cool. Okay, so how about this? Who is your favorite character on screen? Like, who is your favorite queer character on screen?
Ooh, Shane from the L Word. Shane from the L Word, not because it's my favorite character in any other way, but like, oh God, so hot. But Bet from the L Word. Bet from the L. Like, she became the mayor and stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's impressive.
What's the best thing about being queer?
That we don't have to fit into boxes and checklists and societal expectations anymore. We've already broken their expectations by being queer, so now they don't say get married at this age, do this at this age, because you're already queer. What else can you do anyway?
What is the one thing that scares you the most?
One thing that scares me the most? Ooh, the idea of being straight.
What is the one what is the one thing that inspires you the most?
One thing that inspires me the most, I would say Gen Zs. They really inspire me, like how they are able to be their true authentic selves and how they are able to make their choices on their own terms. I really think they inspire me.
Okay, I'm going to say a couple of words and I want your like immediate reaction. It could be verbal or non-verbal. Okay, workplace equity.
Dream. The dream.
Homophobia.
Not a phobia.
Allyship.
It's not a fear. Queer, homophobic people don't fear us. They hate us.
Allyship.
A verb. An ongoing journey.
Ambition.
Everything in moderation.
Politics.
Everything is political.
India.
Our mere existence is political. Our mere queer existence is political.
India.
India has a long way to go.
Sayantika, thank you so much for that poem. It was beautiful. And thank you so much for the rest of the conversation as well. I'm so glad we connected.